everyone. My name is Brooklyn Cattrall, and today I'm going to present to you my sex and gender project. I'm going to start out with my childhood as my story begins there. So, with my younger self, growing up, I had a lot of influence from the men in my life regarding the activities I was involved in. From childhood, my grandpa, father, and my older brother were my main source of entertainment. Whatever they were doing, I wanted to do it too, and they treated me just like they would if I were a quote unquote boy. Because they treated me a little different than what I think most girls might experience, this had a great impact on my personality traits and how I manage my emotions. As a child, I rarely got to express pain. If I hurt myself, I had to suck it up and rub some dirt on it. This was a quality I needed in order to hang with the men. If I was internally sad, these feelings were disregarded, and I often would have to keep them bottled up, or else I would be in danger of getting made fun of. Having to be tough all the time is hard, and I think it has affected my life in not so helpful ways. But I don't blame the men in my life for having done this to me. I think they just didn't know better, and they were repeating the behaviors that the men gave them when they were growing up. But on a completely lighter note, I am glad I grew up surrounded by awesome men because they made me outdoorsy and have influenced some of my favorite hobbies. Next, I'm going to talk about me being a tomboy. Having grown up with men and having influence from an older brother who I always wanted to embody, I was a tomboy through my adolescence. I love to get dirty, as you can see from the photo on the right. I'm playing with clay with my cousin. So, I was not in any shape or form a girly girl. In fact, when I was younger, I would make a regurgitating sound every time someone would recommend me to dress or act like a lady. I wanted to do whatever the hell felt fun and creative, even if it was going against society's belief on how a girl should act. I was proud of my tomboyness. Every time my grandpa or grandma would call me tomboy, I would grin ear from ear because at the time I sure as hell didn't want to be a quote unquote boring girl. Next, I'm going to start talking about my teenage years. And in my teenage years, I was involved in a lot of athletics. So not only did the men in my life impact the way I dressed or acted, but I wanted to transition into athletics because sports started to influence my wardrobe later in my life. As a multi-athlete, I was always trying to wear the most comfortable clothes. Usually it composed of a loose-fitting t-shirt or sweatshirts paired with some sweatpants and slides, which is shown in the next slide that I'm going to show you. So you have an image of what I used to wear. So my wardrobe, I never really realized the societal context clothes could have on a person. I mean, clothes are just material objects covering up your body parts. They did not mean much to me, except they acted as a way for me to portray that I was carefree and not your average girl. But once I got into high school, I realized that wardrobe did matter. At least people would base opinions on you by the way you dressed. In fact, when I got my first boyfriend in high school, I pretty much wore what you see in these images every day. And he actually ended up telling me that he did not like the way I dressed and was embarrassed because it was too boyish. I took his diss to heart, actually, and changed who I was and how I expressed myself externally and began dressing more like a quote-unquote woman in order to please him. Thankfully, we broke up, but it still impacted me from then on. Next, I want to talk about, dressing more like a girl after he told this to me. I wanted to show you photos so you can see the change in my wardrobe. Obviously, it's not that crazy, but it was for me. Wearing a dress was something I would never do. They were always uncomfortable, and I did not feel like myself. I started doing my hair, curling it in order to look more pretty. I was just trying to fit in with the majority of the other girls who dressed more classy, I guess you would say. So now that I had restricted myself on wearing clothes that I liked, I found a way to express myself through my hair. I've always been more edgy. I like being creative with my hair. I'm constantly changing it up. During my freshman year of high school, I shaved half my head. I was really excited about this haircut. I thought it looked awesome and it was different than what most people do with their hair. Unfortunately, just like my outfits, people were also judgmental about my haircut. In fact, the whole football team of my high school gave me the name Christy Mack, which at the time I didn't know who that was, but apparently she was a famous porn star. It seems that every time I would try something different and express myself in new ways, there was always someone there trying to criticize it or sexualize it. So my story is not rare or super interesting, but reflecting on these moments in my life made me realize that society's generalizations of what a woman should be really restricts us and places us into boxes that begin to diminish our creativity and self-expression. Society's construct of gender turned me into something that I never wanted to become. I never wanted to be super womanly. I loved sports, fishing, everything that my dad, grandpa, and brother loved to do. Now, in the back of my head, these instances that happened in high school will linger with me. They change the way I present myself as a female, something I wish I could be. Sometimes I wish I could be as carefree as I once was, but it seems almost impossible to be carefree in a world that judges gender so harshly. That is all for my presentation. I do not have much to derive for a long story, but thank you for listening. I really enjoyed this project, and this class makes me hopeful, and I think my generation and future generations will make great change in the area of gender. Thank you, guys.